And welcome everybody to another episode of the Most Important Conversations. I'm here with Jenna Smith, as usual, for our conversations about sex, love, relationships, how those things affect our wealth, our success, our thriving in life, our health, all of these things. So Jenna, how are you doing today?
I'm good. This is our new year. This is literally January 1st, while we're recording. So
Yeah,
yay, 2025.
it is. And this is the time of year when I'm just going to put it out there. I'm a little bit, what we're going to talk about today on the show. Jenna, how do you frame what we're talking about?
What the New Year's resolution
No,
timing,
today, no, today we were talking about
love and chemistry.
love and chemistry and how that fits into
We're
New
talking about
Year's
communication.
yeah. All right, let me just start with saying, first of all, New Year's resolutions drive me crazy, because it's the same thing we've talked about before, that people make these resolutions, they make these plans, no different than when you go to a conference for personal development or some self-help thing. We make plans, right? We're going to change our lives. Like, this is the year, the line has been drawn, 2024 is over.
Yeah.
And my life's going to be totally different. And yet it probably won't be for most people. Actually, there's a study that was done that found that only 8% of people who make New Year's resolutions stick to it in any, not even 100% of it, but stick to it at any level. And
Uh-huh.
that 92% totally out the window, gone by sometime February, for sure by March.
Yep.
You see this in the gym world, if for anyone
Mhm.
who's, regulars at the gym. And I'm a regular at the gym, so I know every late December, early January, there's all these new people. And I'm glad the new people are there.
Yeah.
I just
Yay.
wish they would stay,
Yeah.
because
And
otherwise,
get to learn how it works.
yeah, because otherwise it just feels like, dude, you're just cramping the space for no reason, because you're not going to
Hmm.
be there in like 6 weeks,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So, but this is not a judgment. It's a human brain issue. So anyway, New Year's
Yeah, it's an
resolutions.
observation.
Yeah.
We're
So
observing patterns. I was in the fitness industry, and um what we were just talking about, Chad and I, is that people wouldn't hire personal trainers right away. They would want to do it on their own. So that's the other thing is, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it on my own. And then come February, March, that's when all the personal trainers would get all the packages, because you realize, oh, you know what? If I do want to do this, I need some help. I need to
yeah,
do something different. I have to be different. Like, something different has to happen. So if you take all your old habits and you just kind of try something, it will fade away, and it should, because you want to have lasting transformation. You want to have a sustainable life change. And that's a different thing altogether. But yeah, the
yeah,
trend of it's fresh, that motivational spark. Well, we're going to talk about spark and chemistry. It's the same phenomenon. If it just dies off, like, you can't bank
yeah,
on it. But to actually have an aligned, authentic commitment
yeah,
that is woven to your values, and then building from there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so this new year, New Year's resolutions, and one of the resolutions that I know a lot of people are probably making, and why I asked you, Jenna, what we're talking about, is because you've been getting, I just wanted to get the theme accurate, because you've been getting a lot of questions from your clients related to this sort of love and chemistry dynamic. And so there's a lot of
Yeah.
people who are probably thinking, oh, it's the new year, line in the sand, I'm going to fix my relationship, which is so toxic, or whatever might be going on. There's a lot of
Mhm.
stress, anxiety. It's just like, relationships and health are the two areas that
Mhm.
we as human beings tend to neglect, because we're chasing the model of success that has been sort of taught to us. And so on the relationship front, um, February's coming up now. We got Valentine's Day. We'll do a Valentine's, Day episode and show when that's relevant. But I want to comment on it. Like, here it is, it's January, New Year's resolution. It might make sense for people. I'm just going to put this out there to consider that Valentine's Day isn't enough, right? So it's like everyone looks to, like, that's the day of, here's what I do. In my relationship, Valentine's Day is the day we do nothing. It's like, you be you, do your own thing. I'm going to be me, do my thing. It's the opposite. We've inversed it. I'm like, I want 364 days of an amazing electric, hot relationship. And I want one day where I can just, everyone else can go spend gobs of money on overpriced flowers and play that stupid game. But, so I'm just reversing it in my head. And I think that that's a game, if anyone wants to play the New Year's resolution game for your relationships, maybe start thinking from that perspective. Like, rather than trying to fit into some kind of a model, maybe it's time and there's an opportunity this year for you to be authentic, to express what's important to you in your relationship, to hear what's important to the other person you're in relationship with, to create a different context. So I'm used to using Valentine's Day as a bit of one of those sort of how we fall into cultural traps in terms of what is my relationship supposed to look like? What does love look like? What does sex look like? What's in play and out of play, right? So many people don't take the time to creatively define this for themselves and for each other in the context of relationship. So it kind of just becomes a consumed thing. Like we consume the society's model of what a relationship looks like. So that's what we want to talk about today, is that, if you're going to play the New Year's resolution game, which I think is kind of not very effective, but if you're going to play it, don't pick up the models from around you, in this case, around your relationships. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
Well, while you were talking, I think the theme is creativity. So I talk to a lot of people like, what is your ideal relationship? What are you co-creating with somebody? And to just start that conversation, like, what are you looking for? Like, I love the question, what do I want more of? What do I want less of? Just to be like, what it's interesting to see what comes. Sometimes when I'm unclear, I'm like, I want more of, what do I want less of? Oh, I want, and I'm like, okay, cool. And just to start being creative with it, by even starting to look at it. So like curious and creative, like, how is this going? And getting honest. And then, oh, what if we got creative with it? And again, not inserting models that aren't you. People just don't spend enough time and attention on the things that matter. Like if you just actually sat down and gave some time and attention to it, what you need will come. And I think people undervalue their ability to put attention on something. They'll think, oh, I don't know. You don't know yet because you haven't put attention on it yet. So just the process of paying attention as well to begin. Let's pay attention. I think what is good about New Year's is the paying attention. It's a big, what do I want more of? What do I want less of? But now what? And being intentional versus goals. Like, okay, I have an intention to have more authentic relationships in my future. Okay, cool. So now what are some of those aligned actions that aren't just something I do for 30 days, which by the way, takes longer to do a habit. It's a stupid fact.
Yeah, I think it was 62 or 63 or some weird
It's
number
still
like
not
that.
true. It takes 3 years or something. Like it takes a while to actually become a new person. But anyway.
Oh, sure. Yeah. To be a whole new person.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the problem with, like, there's nothing wrong with reflection, introspection, evaluating your life. But until people realize that we are all dealing with this thing, which we talk about in the whole life architecture work at TMIC, this thing called the near win, where our brain is going to neurochemically reward us for almost winning behavior. Meaning any resolution, New Year's resolution you set, your brain is thinking, hold my beer, because this is not happening, right? Like new behaviors, this is not happening. So now there's a way around it, and that's the whole premise of our work with whole life architecture and the model that we've set up, which is community-based accountability structures, a curriculum that doesn't deal strictly only at the topic level, but gets to the source essence of beingness, the ontology of the whole thing. And that's why we've done it that way. But so I just want to encourage people and simultaneously not bullshit people. You have a 92% failure rate if you're setting a resolution as just an idea. So how do you take it from idea to lived experience to embodiedness so that it actually works? Which I think is what we're going to talk about when we get to the next segment after this break. And welcome back, everybody. So picking up where we left off in the intro, we're talking about love and chemistry today. We're talking about it in the context of New Year's resolutions, of it being a new year, and that, relationships are one of these areas in our life, in our efforts to succeed at all costs, that we usually deprive of the attention and the intention that our relationships deserve. And so then they end up breaking down. And so many people maybe have a resolution for this new 2025 year of I'm going to fix my if you're married or you're dating, whatever the scenario is, I'm going to fix my relationship, whatever that means. And this topic of love and chemistry is really important. So Jenna, share with us a little bit about what you've been hearing from your clients. Your clients are a bit of like they're clearly not a statistically relevant survey or anything like that, but they are a bit of a, because you need thousands for them to
Yeah.
be,
People live in life. Yeah.
but there's still people live in life, and you're doing your work, you're going to see patterns and trends and things. And
Mhm.
so talk a little bit about what you've been seeing around love and chemistry and why this is such a big thing right now.
Well, yeah. So the fundamental flaw with chemistry, passion, chemistry is most people are going to be attracted to who will wound them the most. So the excitement energy is typically a repeated pattern of what is familiar to you, that you need to transform. So most people are, from a dating perspective, obviously, if you're in your marriage, we're gonna shift gears a little bit. That's a different conversation. But for dating, the desire to have chemistry. Actually, I just had a friend. This is more actually half friends, half clients. She's like, yeah, I'm not really, this and that. I'm not really into this. Two of them actually. I don't know. And I'm like, hey, just wait it out. He seems good. He seems this. He's like, there's good qualities there. Just wait it out. See what happens. And because the chemistry wasn't there, they were going to bolt in both cases. In both cases, they stayed. The guy turned out to be great, surprised them on multiple levels, and they're kind and they're considerate and they're stable and they're all of these qualities that were not happening with the other guys they were dating. So the chemistry is suspect.
Mm.
And this is across the board. You look at any relationship thing, they'll talk about a lot more depth about chemistry, but the phenomenon of chemistry isn't necessarily, oh my God, we're so meant to be together. That's love songs and codependent love songs. Like, it's not what you want for a
What do you
relationship.
mean? All those love songs that I love,
I
that's
love
bullshit.
singing them, but they're bullshit. I need you and I'm nothing without you. And
Okay.
it's not the goal.
You just wrecked Celine Dion's entire,
I
like
know.
her
I sang them
horror
all.
pop. Yeah.
I want you to need me like
Yeah.
the air
Because
you
you loved
breathe.
me or whatever. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that one's pretty. That one's actually really sweet. It's like, I'm a better person because you loved me. Actually, you picked one that's more in the love category than the chemistry category.
Okay.
But
Got it.
the chemistry would be, I'm going to die now because we're not together.
Okay.
And so the thing is with love is never missing in your relationship. The love has to be self relationship and
Coming from you.
yeah, you have to have
Yeah.
a connection to love. Your partner is showing you the love that you are. And when they're
Right.
gone, the love isn't gone.
Right.
But the love isn't gone. And so this was a journey I had to go on, which made me more of an expert in relationships because I was so desperate to like make the pain go away. But the phenomenon of chemistry is typically going to be fleeting, a familiar wound, a familiar character trait that could be from your dad or your mom. Like, there was a saying when I was in psychotherapy school that you'll scan a room and figure out who'll hurt you the most and then be attracted to them. Subconscious, because healing means wholeness. Love is wholeness. And so, let's get to this. From a deep soul level, your soul's like, yeah, let's do this. But when we don't see the pattern isn't working, this is where we want to pay attention. Like, oh, that was really exciting, but then it was really bad. But then it wasn't really healthy. And then we didn't have good structures and we weren't communicating. And I didn't feel like I could be myself. My other thing with relationships is you want to be yourself with the person. Two people being themselves together is my definition of a relationship. So when we're talking about love and chemistry, love is like, essentially you're picking the shittiest parts of the person and you're choosing them. Like, it's great when you're your best behavior, fun. Let's go play games and let's go learn how to axe throw. And it's great. Let's have sex and there's no baggage. So it's super fun. Great. But then when you start to see people triggered when they're in fear, which we call our survival mechanism, I think, do you call it that too?
Yeah, your fear, survival. Yeah.
Your survival the mechanism. Like, that's when I'm a bitch and that's when I'm selfish and that's when I'm shut down and that's when I'm cold. And so they need to want that part. They need to be in on the parts when I'm not on. And that would be more of a container of love, of like, you get to be all of your parts and we're going to work on them together. And it's this real love is a container for you to do all this transformational stuff. And that's really why we're doing this show. Love is one of the most amplifying containers to see all of your shit.
Right.
If you choose not to shove it down and suppress it and just tolerate it and live this really like gray life.
Yeah.
But when you really can look at it, you have the opportunity to really transform and become the biggest version of you, because you're going to see everything you don't want to see in the relationship dynamic.
So there's two components here is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
So we've got love, we've got chemistry. Love is something that comes from us. So we're connected to love
Yeah.
intrinsically within ourselves, and we get to share that with others versus the codependent model of I need you to give me love because I don't have any internally. I don't have that
Yeah.
for myself, so I need you to give it to me. Right? So
Yeah.
that's a situation a lot of people enter
Lot.
relationships in trying to solve for themselves. So they're trying to solve the lack of love from my parents, my dad, my mom, the
Mhm.
world, whatever, right? The lack of love. Maybe it's kind of like that book, that children's book, The Ugly Duckling, right?
Yeah,
It's
I
like, are
love
you
that
my
book.
mother? Are you my mother? Right?
Yeah.
Are you love? Are you love? Because I'm not, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a lack of knowing the self
Yeah.
at that level. But then there's the chemistry. So you can love someone, you can love yourself, and then you can bring that love to the someone in the dynamic, and they're bringing it to you, but you
Mhm.
may not have chemistry with them,
Yeah.
right? That's a
Right away.
possibility. Like,
Yeah.
well, or maybe ever. I mean, what if
Mhm.
I'm like completely tapped in and connected to me as love and a
Mhm.
loving person? I bring that to my relationships, but the person I'm engaged with in that moment, whether I'm just dating or whatever, there's no chemistry. So like these two, what I guess I'm saying is we often confuse love for chemistry.
Yeah. Well, yes. And so in the case of my two friends and that myself in my 20s, where I was just not into this guy because he wasn't an asshole. So I wasn't attracted to him. It took a while. And then eventually, so what I just wrote down amplified aliveness. So I think chemistry in the beginning is actually in the world of recovery, they talk about excitement. Um, like when you need to get sober, you need to look at the world of excitement. Okay, this is exciting, but it's actually from a base of fear. The excitement, the anxiety, that's not, you kind of don't want that. Like that's fleeting.
Right.
It's a balance. It's coming from a place of fear. What we're talking about, like in the case of my two friends, it's like this really stable, kind person, but also has like all these other great qualities, but they just couldn't see it right away. And now that they feel safe, there's this amplified aliveness. I wouldn't call it chemistry, but now suddenly there's this like energy that I think it's different than chemistry. Like that like bold, like you're kind of drunk in love energy that will fade. That will absolutely fade. But I think when you let it grow, you have the opportunity to feel more alive together because you're in a really good foundation of safety.
Yeah.
It's different.
I'm picking up on this. I think it's something important to just really address for listeners is you meet someone, this is what a lot of people end up in relationships. Okay. So they're looking for, it's like that song. They're looking for love in all the wrong places, right? So they're looking
Mhm.
for love because they don't have it intrinsically. Someone's giving it to them or they're extracting it from them. They could be a love vampire. Um, and they equate that with, oh, we have so much chemistry because
Yes.
because the love vacuum that they had is now being filled up. And they
Mhm.
mistakenly believe
Mhm.
that that feeling is chemistry. And
And
so
it's
what
really
happens
addiction.
is,
Mhm.
right. And so then they get into a relationship, maybe they get married or
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit, where did that go?
Mhm.
Actually, I don't even know who this person is
Yes.
anymore. You hear that
Yes.
anymore.
Yes.
Well, you never knew who they were in the first place because you were blinded by the light, right, of the love, right? So you couldn't see it.
No, because they don't want to see it. I've
Yeah.
noticed myself when I'm dating, I'm like, oh, this guy's so awesome. And then I could start to see things I don't like. I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't unsee it. Like, but
Yeah.
most people choose to unsee it.
Yeah.
They like, oh, no, it's okay. Oh, da, da, da. Like they'll show you who they are. They really, really will. And it's not about looking for things that are wrong with people. It's about looking for things that aren't a match.
Yeah.
Can you be with this? We talk about the phenomenon of being. Can I
Yeah. It's
be
alignment.
with this lifestyle habit? Because if you're looking at, well, we talked about different types of creative partnership as well, but if you're looking more monogamous partnership, um, in the house, nesting partner, you need to align. Ideally, like if you have a completely different schedule, you're just making it hard for yourself. But most people, from their drunken loveness, addiction energy, the chemistry, they don't want to see what doesn't
Mhm.
match. They
Yeah.
love this feeling, so they don't want to see it. It might be there. Their friends might even be like, I kind of see this thing, and they're like, no, because they want it.
This is interesting. So this ties in very nicely to the very first distinction of whole life architecture is the distinction that we make between are you either a creator of your own life or are you just consuming life? Okay.
Mhm.
And I don't mean just like consuming things, but consuming models, ideas, space, time, energy, people, and and so what I'm hearing you say is that someone has a vacuum for love inside themselves. They
Most
meet
people.
someone who fills that vacuum, at least initially. They mistake that for chemistry. So here's what you're doing. You're consuming the love energy of someone else because you're not generating it internally and intrinsically to love yourself. All right. And then, but on the flip side, though, there's if you approach relationships as it like you're saying as an act of creativity where I am intrinsically embodied with love for myself in myself.
Mhm.
And now this person enters my sphere and I'm looking for how much alignment is there so
Mhm.
that we can co-create something that works for both of us. I don't need them to give me love. I
Mhm.
have that. I need them to be a co-creative partner with me. And
Yeah.
that's the chemistry part.
Yeah. That's the good chemistry part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There was something else there about that. I think it's gone. Yeah. Yeah. So, self relationship. So we've talked about self relationship is that you have to have a relationship with yourself and be like, this is me feeling feelings. This is how I think thoughts. This is how my world operates in order to share yourself with somebody. So I think the term self love, we both prefer self relationship because it's like I know who I am, good and bad. That's love, good and bad. I'm like, even though I can be a bitch, I'm super duper lovable, right? It's not conditional. And so that work of being loved no matter what you do or do not do, I find when I talk to friends and clients, that's the big bubble. It's like, whoa, no matter what I do or don't do, even if I'm not this, and even if I'm not this role, if I'm not the rescuer, if I'm not the super people pleasery person, or if I'm not the super sexy girl or the super sexy man, am I still lovable? I was dating a really good looking guy and he's like, would you like me if I wasn't good looking? I'm like, I mean, it's a hard question because when their identity is so wrapped into it, but that was going through his head of like, are people just liking me for my money or my looks or, like what people really want is to be accepted. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
like the I'm loved no matter what I do or do not do includes I'm not loved because of my identities.
Right.
Like someone could be like, "Oh my God, Jenna's so cool. She's great to talk to and she has creative ideas." So like, am I okay? So do you only want to be with me because I'm going to help what you're doing?
Right.
That's not love. Those are all conditions and stuff like that. But when you have a deep sense of self relationship, then people can relate with you
Yeah,
because
and there's
you have
something
a
though on
base.
that though that I want to point out, which is that we live in such a short attention span culture. So how do you know if you have chemistry with someone? So go back to the question. Do you want to be, you know, do you like me because I'm good looking?
Uh huh.
Well, the question is, you can only answer that question honestly. It's like, well, we've only hung out twice. So kind of, yeah, because I don't really
Yeah.
know you
I was
yet.
like, I don't know.
Like, what else do I have to go on here? I'm still getting to know you, right?
So you're
And
app dating. Yeah.
yeah, and let's face it, I mean, if he wasn't attractive and you have no history getting to know him, would you probably have spoke to him? Probably not.
No, probably not. Yeah.
Probably not. There's a certain honesty that we just have to, I think, acknowledge that you only get to know someone after you spend time with them, and you're only going to choose to spend time with them
Mhm.
if what we call the superficial things check a few boxes.
Yeah.
Now, I would say that that makes those superficial things not superficial, except they're superficial if after you get to know them, it's still the most important thing.
Right.
Like in
They're
other words, if you're
doorways. They're like a storefront.
yeah, so nobody's going to go shop in a store that, has rocks thrown through the windows, has, police tape on the outside saying warning, danger, danger. I don't know. That's not a store I'm going to walk in and try and
No.
find something today.
And I have seen those profiles. I'm like, no.
Yeah. So, but the point, I think what happens is people are like, oh, I can't stand this person, but they're so good looking, so I'm just going to stay with them. Or I
Yeah.
can't stand this person, but
Choice.
I love the money, so I'm going to
Yeah.
stay in it because of the money,
Yeah.
right? Even though I just, and if you ask them like, would you still be with this person if they didn't have the money? And if they say no, then it's like, holy God, now that's the superficiality piece right
And
there.
now that's what you're choosing. And so,
Yeah.
and that to me is a deservability issue as well. Like, am I deeply deserving of love? Okay, well, I might as well have cool shit, or I might as well be with this hot person. And so we're in that societal soup of
Yeah.
whateverness. But for deep fulfillment, and like, it's really fun. Like, we've both been in really great relationships, and you are right now. Like, they're so fun when you could be a whole person with another whole person, and then be holding each other, not to a higher standard, but to who you really are. And like, it's really cool. It is super worth doing. But most people don't know how to take the time, to your point of like, I talked about this, I think before, like I look at relationships as Netflix subscriptions. Like, I'm going to resubscribe. This is working for me. And if it doesn't, I was even joking with a friend. I'm like, there's times where we're dating and just like, it sounds like a wind up toy that has lost its juice, and it's just like, wow,
Yeah.
and it's like text message, hi, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. And there's just no more energy left. And like,
Yeah.
let it go. Just let it go. But when there's energy there, we look at like soul level stuff, and we look at what's generative in this other human. And I also look at relationships as Mario coins. Like, someone has Mario coins for me. You know what I mean? When you go along, it's like boopity boopity,
Yeah.
boop. And then like, someone has something for my wholeness that I might not have accessed as much fun or effectively. I might have, but like, they have something for me that makes me more me. Not, I won't ever have it if I never see them, but we're here to relate. We're here to be in relationship. So if we can start to relate more and relate with more of an empowered self relationship, in order to relate, in order to communicate, in order to be willing to be rejected, because that's the other thing, be willing to be rejected. Like, if I speak up and suddenly I'm unattractive, great. Like, perfect. Thanks for showing me who you are. So
Yeah.
that
Tells me a
first
lot.
phase of relationship, people just want to be liked and they don't want to be rejected. And it's like, that's not how to do it powerfully. Love is going to be this place where like, you get to ride that wave of like, oh my gosh, I was just really difficult and they still were there. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. That's the time it takes to build things like trust,
Yeah.
real communication, like talking about hard things. I'm worried that you're going to break up with me if I say this thing. That's when you start to build real love. And it's a romantic love thing. Like, the love is always there, but romantic love requires attention and consistency, like plants, like pets, like babies. Like, it's a thing. There's you, and the relationship needs attention. So that's a different thing. But this whole chemistry love thing I wanted to talk about because, well, I saw those two friends that were totally going to write off those men. And now they are so happy. And it's just like, it was just that little extra bit of like, just hang out a little longer. Just try it out a little longer. That's
And what are some of the well, we're going to get to this, I think, in a few minutes,
the
but
takeaways. Yeah.
yeah, when we do our takeaways, what are some of those things that we can help guide people to look for when to give it a little longer or when to cut and run,
Right. Right.
right? Because it's not always so obvious and clear, especially
Yeah.
when you're in the midst of the whole emotional soup
Mm-hmm.
that can
Mm-hmm.
happen in relationships. And let's not forget the neurochemical things that are going on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to overly trivialize it, but when we get really attached to people that we're in love with, what this
Mm-hmm.
is an oxytocin addiction, right? It's a pair bonding drug addiction of the brain. So the brain is just flooding your brain with oxytocin, and it feels good and amazing, and so you go through withdrawal. It's actually as addictive as heroin. Okay, so when people break up, that they're going through the equivalent of a heroin withdrawal addiction. If it's something that was really deep or a long relationship or whatever, right? Not
Yeah.
like a 1 or 2 dates, but if you're with someone, you're a heroin addict,
Yep.
by another term.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's not something to I offer that because if you can relate to it that way, then you understand what's going on, right? So it's not like the
Mhm.
end of the world, and you can stand more in your own power that way
Yeah, ride it out, ride out the storm. Like,
because
okay.
you know you'll be fine, and
Mhm.
you just need the addiction to work itself off,
Yeah.
literally.
And the solution isn't to get them back, right? So like
No,
anyone who's in addiction is like, oh, if I just have one more drink, it's like, nope.
yeah,
that's,
yeah, this
that's
is
not going to heal
exactly it.
you. Mhm.
Yeah. This is exactly it. So, all right. Well, so it's just a summary, and then we're going to take a break and we're going to get to some takeaways. But so this distinction between love and chemistry, what we want people to realize at the beginning of this year, don't make these, trivial, superficial, New Year's resolutions. If you're going to make a resolution for anything, I would encourage people to resolve to get more deeply connected to themselves, to connect to loving themselves. What does that feel like? Not, don't worry about fixing something.
Mhm.
One of the best pieces of advice that I was ever given and give to other people when it comes to relationships is the more you focus on working on loving yourself, and both
Mhm.
people in relationship do that, the better the relationship's going to be. Meaning, either it'll be better because you're going to stay together, or it'll be better because you'll both realize there's no chemistry here. Let's go, no hard feelings. Both are
Yeah.
perfectly viable.
Yeah.
You got to be
Yeah.
willing to walk, though.
Being willing to let go of things.
Yeah,
Absolutely. That's
yeah,
loving. It's like, oh, I love you enough to be like, we're compromising too much. This isn't working.
yeah,
That's mature love. And that you want to throw in the word maturity too, because or sober, right? Like these like,
yeah, yeah,
I'm not running off of these addiction chemicals. I'm like sober enough to go, what's here?
yeah. Okay. All right. We'll be back after a quick break with some takeaways that you can apply in this new year for yourself around love and chemistry. We'll be right back. And welcome back, everybody. So we want to kind of wrap things up, and this is something we're going to be doing this year. This is our New Year's resolution.
Day one.
Um, yeah, um, just making fun of that. We're going to be doing takeaways, things that you can apply directly to your life, things that you can contemplate, things that, we talk about a bunch of stuff, and you have probably ideas popping here, there, and everywhere. So how do we synthesize this into things that can be actionable for you?
Mhm.
So, Jenna, we'll start with you. What are some of the things around love and chemistry that the listeners and viewers can take away?
Yeah. So we already talked about self relationship. And so everything in your life, and we talk about ontology, is your relationship to yourself, your relationship reality. So we got to start here. So my favorite tips, actually, you can check out Julia Cameron's The Artist Way. She
Mm,
has morning pages exercise, which is writing 3 pages with by hand on paper. Now that's going to create, it's not just random Dear Diary stuff. It's going to create self relationship. You're actually relating to yourself and the contents of your mind and the emotions, and you're taking time, which you should in relationships too, but you're taking time with yourself to be with what's coming out of your mind, to be with what's there, to listen by writing it out. And she calls it the morning pages. So if you want more information, she explains it really well. And then she also has an exercise. This is for artists because artists need to have a strong self relationship. So it's great tools to go on an artist date where like it doesn't have to be complicated. Like just something you would want to do a lot. I see a lot. Oh, I really want to go to this with my partner. I really want to go to this with my partner. Just freaking go.
mhm,
Just freaking go. It actually makes you more attractive.
mhm,
I'm gonna go to the opera. I'm gonna go to that thing. I'm gonna go pet puppies at a thing. Like, don't wait for your partner all the time. Go do the things that make you feel more like you. Always do the things that make you feel more like you as much as possible. But
mm.
those are my
Good one.
two base ones. And then when we talked about chemistry, just notice the most powerful tool is noticing. Oh, I really want to like that guy. Oh, I can see the red flags and I'm making excuses for it. Like start to notice where you lie to yourself and just start to get a little bit more sober and mature and notice where you will tolerate things
Mm.
that you no longer want to tolerate and just start to notice.
Yeah, those are good ones. So I think for me, one of the big takeaways is to really sit with this idea that first of all, if you're approaching your relationship from a place of something that needs to be fixed, you're
Mhm.
already headed down the wrong path, because relationships just are, and they are what they are is a confluence and an emergent property of these two individual beings bringing all of who they are. And then it's like a chemistry or non-chemistry soup. And if you are coming, or your partner's coming, or both of you are coming from a place of not enoughness, a lack of self-love, a lack of self-knowledge, so you don't even know, what's important to you, why it's important, why you make the choices you make. If you haven't done any of that kind of work, then you're going to be relating to your relationship as something that needs to be fixed.
Mhm.
And you'll probably relate to the person as someone who needs to be fixed.
Yeah. People
And
love
that's,
blaming. I just want to add
yeah,
to that. Like people,
it's a
when I start,
projection.
they love blaming. He's this, and if he did that, and like all the very finger pointy.
Yeah.
Um, it's really great and delicious
Don't
to
be a
like,
pointy. Don't be a
don't be a
pointy.
finger pointy person.
Yeah.
It's a really great way to not see what you need to work on.
Yeah. Well, of course. Yeah. I mean, it obfuscates the having to look at yourself, right? And so I guess the one big takeaway, just to summarize that, is your relationship is actually not with the other person, it's with yourself. The
Mhm.
relationship is the thing that happens between two people being wholly themselves, whether being wholly themselves is from a place of brokenness or
Mhm.
it's from a place of integrity. You still show up as your whole self as you are in that moment, brokenness and all.
Mhm.
And your relationship is the dynamic of those two individuals.
Mhm.
So it isn't about changing the other person.
Yeah.
It's about loving yourself, knowing yourself, and them doing the same thing.
Mhm.
And then those two people focused on optimizing themselves to the highest potential possible for themselves, coming together and then assessing, is there chemistry between these two selves, right? So no one needs to do anything for you, and you don't need to do anything for them. You may want to from a place of generosity and all of the things that are
You don't
natural in a
owe
healthy
anybody.
relationship, but it's not
Mhm.
an owed thing.
Mhm.
If you owe anything to anyone, it's what you owe to yourself. And what you
Mhm.
owe to yourself is to know yourself. And so we can actually help you with that too. We have
Mhm.
this new program we've launched this year called The Jungle and the Gardener. And Jen is part of it. And you also have the opportunity to have one-on-one coaching as part of, that program with Jenna. But it's a facilitated, community-based, conversation-based ontological program around relationships, sex, love, all of that great stuff. But these are some of the topics that we're going to be dealing with. How do I love myself? Some people will say, how can I love myself when no one loves me?
Mhm.
So there's a trap there,
Yep.
because now you're needing someone to love you before you can even love yourself. That trap will never get resolved.
No. How would you treat yourself the way someone who would love you? Like you just got to do these flip arounds, like, or
Yeah.
if I was my best friend, how would I talk to myself? If I, you sometimes you have to look outside of yourself to see how you would relate as someone who would love themselves. And it's a
Yeah.
great trend right now. Like eat food that loves you back, or is this a loving, people are becoming a lot more self-aware, and there's a lot more conversation about it, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as a takeaway for me, and sort of picking up on what you were saying with morning pages and all of
Mhm.
that, those are tools
Mhm.
to help you as an individual learn to know yourself so you can love yourself,
And
right?
show up for yourself.
Yeah,
Show up.
yeah. And so if you do that kind of work, now here's the challenge, right? Is that most people are operating until they choose not to. But most people operate from a default drive, a default intention of their life is the avoidance of discomfort and the avoidance of effort. This is going on subconsciously in the background.
Mhm.
So when we say things like morning pages, do the work to kind of figure out who you are, join the jungle and the gardener, for example, you might be interested in that. There's going to be work involved. And the default mechanism in the background is, oh my gosh, I've got to put in effort, right? I've got to
Mhm.
put in work. But the reality is nothing works unless we work it.
Mhm.
So it's not coming back to where we started as we kind of wrap up today. just saying I have a New Year's resolution to fix
Mhm.
my relationship is not going to do anything
Yeah.
at all, except probably just make you more frustrated
Yeah, you're gonna
because
see
as
all
soon
things that are wrong. Yeah.
you're going to see everything that's wrong, everything that needs to be fixed. And then you're going to get 4 weeks, 6 weeks in, just like the people in the gym, like we were talking about earlier, and nothing's going to have changed. You're going to stop doing the work. But now you're just going to have this heightened awareness of what's not working, even more than you did before you made the resolution.
Mhm.
So if, I get the symbolism of resolutions, but I guess if there's any takeaway, if you need a resolution, be resolved to know yourself and learn how to love yourself, and your relationships will reorient around you
Yeah.
that way,
And to start
right?
small. People are
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm gonna do," like, no, just do little things regularly is more powerful.
I mean, I honestly think that for a lot of people who are in really toxic relationships, because they're in a toxic relationship with themselves,
Well, they
both
need to
people,
heal. They need
they
like
need
that
to heal. The best thing they could
relationship,
do
yeah,
is not be in relationship with anyone.
for a minute.
Do
Yeah.
some work on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that the relationship's gonna be a distraction, especially if it's already codependent or already the dynamics are so entrenched that if you start to change, they fight like heck to keep you the same.
That's right.
And so it's really hard to transform within a relationship that isn't co-creative. Um, and not to say, oh, go break up with everybody, but just know that it's possible. My clients do it all the time. They transform within their relationships. It's not like, oh, leave everybody.
Mhm.
It's possible. But if you're chronically dating or you're in a situation where you could be single and that would serve you, then we'd recommend that. But if you're in a relationship that you adore and in a family that you want to feed with your attention and love, then still choose you within that and be, especially if you have kids. So when you work on yourself, you're becoming the teaching,
Yeah.
because this like out of integrity, you should do this, don't do that. Like as you work on you and you bring love to you and you show up for you, that is the best parenting thing you could do ever in a family
Yeah.
dynamic. So there's also that. So it's gonna ripple out in very generative ways in all of the arenas of your life.
So I have
Two
one
for one
last question
special.
for you. I have one last question for you before we wrap up with something you just said there. So I agree. No one should run out and end their relationship tonight or today because you listened to this.
Yeah.
Unless, this is the unless,
Right.
right? So you have to have a willing partner who's going to work with you, or
Yeah.
at least be open to the transformation that you, when you're working on yourself, are going to go through. They
Yeah.
have to be willing to hold space for that. And if
Mhm.
they're not, that can be an issue. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean break up with them, but it could be a struggle. But
Yeah.
there's always going to be a time when someone needs to know, I have to draw a line here
Mhm.
and it's just not worth it. And it's
Yeah.
not, there's no like definitive timeline or anything like that. But have
Mhm.
you seen in your psychotherapy work, like when certain variables start to lock in that make it just impossible?
Yeah.
Like at what
You'll
point
know, like, you'll
yeah,
know, like, it's what I do say, and I had a relationship that wasn't an ideal relationship, but I knew it wasn't done yet. And again, self relationship, intuition, and connect to my body, connect like I'm working from a different set point to say this advice.
yeah,
I knew it would be done when it needed to be done.
because
And
you
it
knew
was.
yourself.
Yes, and it
That's
was,
why.
and it went far more harmoniously than if I was should I be like, "You know what? We should just break up now." And when I give advice to clients, it's like, "You will know." Like, you will know, like, I am done. I can't like when I left the fitness industry, I would get headaches. I couldn't be there anymore. I
Mm,
physiologically rejected it. And then when I needed to leave the city, I just couldn't be there anymore. Like life was going this way and you will feel it, especially if you're doing this work. If you're watching what we're doing, if you're working with Chad and myself, like you can't not see it and you can't
mhm.
ignore it.
I think that's the
Oh,
best answer you could have gave, which is you won't know. What you really said, Jenna, is you won't know unless you know yourself. It's going
hmm
to be a guess if you don't
hmm
know yourself.
and
But
then
if
you're
you
at the
know
whim of the
yourself,
mind. Yeah,
yeah, and you're at the whim of other people's opinions and
absolutely.
all this other stuff, right?
Yes.
So there is no set answer. It's you will know, but you won't know if you don't know yourself.
Yeah.
Another reason to do the ontological work and know yourself.
Yeah. I have a saying, you can't hear if you're not here.
Mm.
Same thing.
Yeah, I like it. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. We will see you on the next episode of The Most Important Conversations. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully this was helpful. Don't make a New Year's resolution.
Don't finger point.
Yeah.
And also don't finger point.
No finger point. All right, we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
That concludes this episode of The Most Important Conversations. This in-depth conversation could set you on the path to self-improvement, which is essential if you want to be an effective leader and take meaningful action in your life. If you enjoyed this episode and want more of these stimulating discussions, you can find them at tmicglobal.com. Remember, the world is at a crossroads right now. You can't afford to waste this opportunity to take charge of your life, build meaningful relationships with others, and co-create a brighter tomorrow. Thank you for listening. See you on the next one.